Please take your seats so we can move on. All right, people, consideration to approve the July 14th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Yeah, hang on one second. Can we just close the doors? Yeah. Okay, no, that's right. Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. Do we have a second? Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments, concerns, questions about the July 14, 2025 minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda under me, we have a new borough manager. I wanted to let you know, we're saying goodbye to Bill soon.
Bye, Bill.
Okay, I'm going to read these prepared notes here. I'm pleased to provide the community with an update on the council's efforts to hire a borough manager to succeed Mr. Webb, whose last day will be Tuesday, September 2nd, roughly. We concurrently advertise job postings for a temporary manager and for a direct hire or a permanent hire. We advertised with the ICMA, International City County Management Association, the APMM, which is the Association for Pennsylvania Municipal Managers, and PSAB, Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs, along with LinkedIn and other general interest job boards. We received 27 applicants for the opening, nearly 20 of whom met qualifications for the job. 4 council members interviewed 4 candidates over 6 interview periods, yielding a unanimous recommendation to extend a job offer to Sean Halbum, who has served as community manager and other leadership positions in Montgomery and Bucks counties. Sean and Bill have begun a leadership handoff transition, and Sean will begin on a full-time basis after Labor Day. A public council vote to ratify Sean's selection for the position will be held during our September 2nd meeting. Thank you to Cindy, David, and Scarlett, along with everyone around the dais, for facilitating a thorough and thoughtful selection. We will adjourn into executive session probably at the end of this meeting to discuss this matter further.
I just point out one thing.
Yes.
Bill holds several titles here. Zoning officer, right to know officer, borough manager. All those positions are going to need to be filled. And maybe that he takes on exactly the same roles Bill does, but that's just, I just
Yeah,
want to bring
okay,
that to your
thank you.
attention so we can work that through in September.
If I could, just to reiterate what Bob said, under the agenda item where you appoint him, I've actually listed all the titles that I currently hold, and I've already done, so we've already, I've also done the resolution that's required for the pension, and that'll be on your agenda.
Okay. Sean is wonderful. I think you should all come and meet him. You'll love him. He's great. We're lucky. Okay, environment, David.
Oh, thank you. The biggest issue to report is that the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission rejected our request and that of several other boroughs to implement an opt-out green electricity program. In the opinion of those who work closely on this matter, the PUC erred, applying the incorrect PUC case law and ignoring the PA constitutional amendment that requires all political subdivisions to protect the environment. Meetings are being planned to discuss appeal strategy and other paths forward to try to achieve our Ready for 100 resolution. At this time, we do not anticipate of them possibly sharing with other boroughs a filing fee with Commonwealth Court, that there will be any direct cost to the boroughs. There seem to be legal volunteers willing to do the heavy lifting. Our strategies might include pursuing an opt-in program or possibly legislative changes. The governor's office might also issue an RFP to support educational and outreach activities for green electricity. More to come. The Tree Committee reports that due to some recent changes in the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society protocols and the need to focus on replanting 40 pico-related trees this fall. It will not be running the Tree Vitalize program this fall. Representatives of the EAC continue to work with Public Works and legal counsel on RFPs dealing with trash. These should be ready in advance of our September meetings. And I have something here that doesn't apply. The glass recycling bin is back, so please use it. It's at the recycling center. It's working well.
Can I ask you a question about that? Is it cheaper for the borough if we bring our glass there rather than have the recycling people pick it up? Is that right?
Thank you, Bill. It's not only cheaper, but it's better environmental stewardship. When we have mixed use at the curb, and it's something that we're providing ongoing evaluation of, not this year, but probably next, that's the least efficient way of recycling. When we take not only our glass to the recycling center, but our cardboard and paper, and our aluminum cans, and our used clothing, all of those things that we accept, they get really recycled, reused, repurposed. It's the way to go, and it reduces our costs.
Thanks.
So there are several items on the agenda that, unless there were questions on the general activity, the tree ordinance, and I'd like to move that with one small change, but let me move it and get a second so I can introduce the change.
You want to move it? Like
Yeah, yes,
formal?
I've moved.
Second.
Thank you, Scarlett. At section 26608, replacement of street trees, it now says any person as removed a legal tree, and we want that to be, this came from closer reads by members of the tree committee and others, should read any person who has removed a healthy, non-invasive legal street tree. So a very minor change to...
Adding the letter H, right?
Yeah. 266, yes. Adding the letter H and 2 words, healthy and non-invasive legal. So with that change, I move its adoption and open it up for discussion.
Is there a second? Did you already do that? Yes.
That's me.
Oh, okay. Discussion on the tree ordinance. Everyone pretty good with the way it appears? Anyone have any comments?
I have a question.
Just down a little.
The changes are what is underlined or
Yes.
stricken?
Yes.
So the public comment was to a section that has been in there for a long time.
Well, there are 2 sections, that one that's been in there a long time and one that hasn't been in there. The table is new under 2608, that should be underlined, but no, it is underlined.
It is underlined.
It is underlined. So that is, but in the old section, which is also underlined, but it was, as you can see from what was stricken, it was almost the same. We made small changes, reducing the caliber of
But that
trees.
wasn't what he was objecting to.
I believe he was objecting to the number of trees that had to be replaced, and as we all know, one little twig of a tree doesn't replace the environmental contributions of a large tree, and one little twig of a tree often doesn't live. So there was a lot of consideration given to this. This echoes what was already in the code for land development that we put under street trees as well.
Thank you.
Can you explain, if you are a property owner in Swarthmore, what new authority does this give to the tree committee? And how does that impact the homeowners?
Well, it always sort of existed. What's happening is a codification as much as anything. If you want to take down a tree, you should contact the street committee, the tree committee.
A tree anywhere on your property or just a tree?
That's for street trees and land development trees, okay? So if you want to take one back from your backyard, you're allowed to. We'd like you to contact us. That's not mandated, but it's preferred, so we can give you input. Oh, this is a healthy tree, or, yeah, you know, you're doing the right thing here. You know, that type of a process. But it's not a
So,
mandate for your.
I have a lot of trees and, we all have a lot of trees in our yard.
Right.
So if someone wants to take down a tree, they now legally have to go to the tree committee?
For a street tree.
I'm just trying to make it very clear so that
Right.
everyone understands
Right,
exactly.
right.
what
A street tree or a land development tree, they have to go to this tree committee. For a tree that is a heritage tree, they have to come for advice, but we have no right to tell them that they can't take it down.
Any more comments or questions for David or anyone else?
And this is not just a recommendation from the tree committee to environmental, to council. This is the giving the tree committee that authority.
Yes, the tree committee would be, well, actually, the tree committee reports back to the borough manager. The tree committee doesn't have absolute authority. It has to work with the borough manager on these things.
And what are the fines?
All right, well, I don't think we really did much in changing the fines. What we did was increase the number of trees that needed to be replaced. And if
I
we
thought I saw something about,
couldn't
isn't
replace,
there something about placing
right, if you can't replace them, you have to pay
the borough will bill you?
right, what we charge everybody for replacing a tree.
And the fine section is in a separate ordinance that applies to many ordinances.
Right.
And it's not to exceed $1,000 for each stage of separate violation. That's kind of the general fine for violations of borough ordinances.
But that's not in here tonight.
Are we ready to vote on passage of this ordinance? Are we not ready? Does anyone have anything further? Are we ready? Okay. All in favor of ordinance 052025, amending the existing tree ordinance? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, 1 opposed. Question for my signature.
So David's gonna send Bob the Word copy.
Okay.
Bob will make the change.
Should I sign the signature page of this? No? Okay.
Yeah, but we'll-
Yes, you know, you can, the pagination's not going to change.
Okay.
Okay. Next is, I'd like to appoint an associate member of the tree committee, Steve Cox, as a full member to replace Carol Bach on the tree committee.
7.
How do we feel about that? Everything in order?
We put it out, we didn't get any other applications.
Okay. All in favor of appointing Steve Cox to replace Carol Bach, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And we already have someone who will come in as a new associate member, so we're happy there as well.
Thank you, Steve.
Right. We have a contract to approve. This is for tree planting contract for Pico trees. It's slightly under budget, which is always nice. And this is for the first approximately 40 trees. It calls for 40 trees. In this first wave, there will be approximately another 40 planted in 2026.
Just for clarification purposes, if anyone ever questions the bidding, we had received the bid from Mr. Conwell, who does our work now. I did go out and get telephonic quotes from 2 additional companies to protect us under the bid standards, and the other companies were higher than Mr. Conwell, so we did follow the process for the state's DCED bidding.
Thank you, Bill. So we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions about Bill Conwell's quote, $7,800 to plant 40 bare root trees? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. What else?
That's all I have.
Thank you so much, David. Finance, Cindy? Yes.
Just for clarification purposes, PICO has paid for this. This is not coming out
Oh,
of...
so the 78 is not
The
a budget?
7,800 is paid for from PICO, not out of our borough.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Finance Committee did meet in June, and we heard some requests from community groups. Everybody wants more money. Big surprise. Our expenses for this year seem to be tracking just fine. We had the final, well, we need to ratify some bills, and they're large because we're finishing paying for the comp plan and a couple of other things that Bill can explain, but ratification is for $152,083.05. So I'd like to move that we ratify those payments.
Second.
David, second. Any questions about the ratification of bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Same with a move to ratify our wire transfers, $6,129.88.
Second? I'll second. Second. Questions? All in favor of ratifying wire transfers, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Reminder that we are scheduling an open house in this room for September 4th to learn more about earned income tax, what it is, what it isn't, for possibilities for Swarthmore. And my last thing is to make a motion to approve the Finance Committee minutes from June.
Second.
So I think they're approved. Thank you.
All right?
And we're meeting a week from today at
Mm,
8 a.m.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
Yes.
Monday, not Tuesday. Today is Monday.
Today's Monday.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yes, the 25th at 8 a.m., right here.
It's not Tuesday yet.
No, Tuesday, yeah.
And
Feels
we'll
like it.
anticipate that it will be a long meeting because we will be discussing preliminary next year's budgets.
Thank you, Cindy. Who's doing general government for Jana?
I can speak just briefly. General Government Committee met on July 14th. We reviewed the budget requests of community groups that have been previously funded by the borough, and we advanced recommendations to the Finance Committee to be able to plug in and try and see where those requests can fall relative to a balanced budget when we get to that point. So our leg of the journey from a budgeting perspective is largely addressed. We won't meet in August, and I'll yield to Jana whether we're going to meet in September. That's it for general government.
All right, thank you. Planning and zoning.
Okay. I should say that the Environment Tree Committee or the EAC, none of them are meeting in August.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to planning and zoning. Scarlett will run,
Okay.
as she usually does, this part of the meeting.
So, quick, easy softball. Hi, Jared. Anything about the July 17th Planning and Zoning Committee meeting minutes? Okay with getting them up as written?
All good.
Okay. And Kristen, nothing you saw, even though you were absent that day? Okay, we'll get those up for folks who are interested in Cunningham Park. That was another meeting with detailed review of the Cunningham Park permission request from the college. So I'll get those minutes up as quickly as possible. So then the next item we have is consideration of amendments to the non-conforming uses ordinance. And so new draft text. So I'm going to give a little bit of context about this entire initiative and kind of how we got to today. Before what I'll ask of council colleagues which this will be a rerun for all of you, but just for the benefit of us having a shared understanding of where we've been so far. Council colleagues, you also have the draft July ordinance here in front of you in print, as well as this diagram that has the right-of-way and setbacks as they apply to all 4 locations. So I'd encourage you to pull those up as I kind of bring us up to date for today. So our base text, which has not been advertised to the public, but our base text for a conversation here amongst officials is the work product of the Planning Commission and their unanimous recommendation during their July meeting series. So thank you, James, Levine, and I saw Katie, Claudia, Doug, Rachel. Thank you all for being on hand as Planning Commission colleagues. So really just kind of taking us back to the beginning of this initiative in October of 2024, public outreach began to solicit public input into the town comprehensive plan, which is the strategic visioning tool that can give direction to land use decisions over the next 10 years. Responses back then showed that one community priority is increasing the availability of attainably priced housing. In December of 2024, Swarthmore Zoning Hearing Board denied an appeal seeking permission to allow a new business to take over the 630 Yale Ave Collision Center. And near neighbors of the Collision Center advocated to council for that site to be redeveloped for residential use. As the council member assigned to stewarding the 10-year plan, I suggested and got the green light from our solicitor to advance the consideration of the Collision Center site as one of 4 properties which currently share the same legal stipulations governing their future use. And upon the recommendation previously provided in 2022, perhaps, don't quote me on that, from the Development and Affordability Task Force to take a close look at revitalizing those locations. So the 4-property approach really was reaffirmed during the public input community mapping portion of the comprehensive plan, which indicated a broad openness to change on those 4 properties. So bringing us up to 2025, early in 2025, at the advice of the architects on the Planning Commission, council discarded a quick solution to rezone these properties. And that would have been an amendment to Swarthmore's zoning map, applying the zoning permissions which allowed the Village Green townhouses to be built near the recycling center, and simply importing those permission sets to these 4 sites. By March, residents, as indicated in Planning and Zoning Committee meeting minutes, residents from Chester Road, Cornell, Yale, and Rutgers Avenues were well engaged on this topic and indicated to council that they desired redevelopment for housing purposes solely, rather than mixed-use redevelopment allowing first-floor commercial and second-floor housing. So that was another kind of real substantive decision point along the way. In April, I began outreach to occupants of all 4 abutting properties, or the properties abutting the 4 non-conforming commercial properties. As of tonight, 9 of 12 next-door neighbors to these 4 locations has contributed input into the current text before you all tonight, council colleagues. So I do hope we're close to reaching a final product that serves the community goals of enhancing the neighborhood character near these areas with a careful consideration to traffic safety, which really was continuing to be an evolving topic of close study even into July and tonight. So for the benefit of folks who don't have the text in front of them, tonight's council charge is to review and refine the amendment which allows the following: 2.5-story residential housing. If you say, what is a 0.5-story? Think of a wedding cake, where the 3rd floor is the little topper, and the 1st and the 2nd floor may be built out to the same perimeter, but the 3rd floor must be smaller. Up to 35 feet in height, that's the same height as a newly built single-family home is allowed in any of these areas, so no taller. At least one off-street parking space is required for every housing unit, whether that's a townhouse, an apartment, a condo, and up to 8 housing units are allowed on each location. As practical matter and limitation, the buildable area on the collision center site is the biggest buildable area of the property, 75% of the property. That is the smallest of the 4 locations, getting the 75% lot coverage permission. And this draft stipulates limitations on the built and paved areas of each property taken under discrete consideration. The gas station and shopping centers are proposed to allow lot coverage of only 65%. It's 5% greater than what's allowed for a single-family home. The medical building, which is the largest property, would be allowed to have 60% coverage, which is the exact same as a single-family home. So these building and paving lot coverage restrictions, those are in addition to the existing property setback requirements that we've been discussing in previous drafts, and in addition to Swarthmore's land development ordinance, the SALDO, folks have been talking about this evening as well. So the point is, there's a real sensitivity to overbuilding at any of these locations, particularly to increasing traffic problems, but also foreclosing a sense of openness to gentle density redevelopment in the future in other locations. And we have in committee some other locations where near neighbors are asking us for similar kinds of permissions already in other parts of town. So the organization of the draft is thoughtful in that it allows up to 8 dwellings, but for several of these properties, they would have to be quite small, which is a desirable type of housing for our community, and no development could encroach on the roadway, especially on Chester Road. So I know folks want to talk about that really in detail once we get onto the text. So before we get onto the page, some decision points I know council members want to discuss more thoroughly together. I thought it would be good to give an explanation for why the measure is proposed by right rather than conditional use permission path, because I know that's just a key point of community discernment, and I think it would be useful to level set our shared understanding of the sources that contribute to traffic safety in particular beyond this single amendment. So how does that sound to folks around the dais? Yes? Okay. Can stand my voice a little longer. Thank you all for your forbearance. Okay. So conditional use. Let's start there. Conditional use review is an approval process that relies on articulating specific criteria in advance, in writing, and by ordinance that Borough Council, as opposed to the zoning hearing board, that Borough Council uses to grant the conditional use or not when an application to develop a property is submitted. So for example, an example might be X number of housing units are allowed on a property by right, and up to 2 more are allowed if conditions of A, B, and C are satisfied to get the permission to build at X plus 2. Okay, getting a few nods from folks who are like, yep, okay, I follow, and or yes, this is my line of work, and I do not dispute this. Okay, so throughout the process of drafting the ordinance, conditional uses come up often in council and in planning commission deliberations, and for each of those decision points, we've come up with a satisfactory by right criteria, at least to a majority of members of both groups. And I'm not sure really, and you all please chime in, that I'm not sure that this is well understood in the public outside of the Planning Commission and council by residents. The tool of conditional use does not grant the borough, either Borough Council narrowly or residents broadly, the right to subjectively determine or to approve or deny any future development without pre-stated criteria for approval or denial. We can't just say, I like it, I don't like it. So it's a false sense of security, and it's a false sense of stability in a decision path to rely on conditional use without very, very concrete stipulations. And with so few locations and such clear presenting concerns, the themes of each of these properties around density and traffic, we should be able to get that down and get clear about what we're okay with and what we're not okay with. And so that's why this is standing in a by right posture. And just anecdotally, I really didn't appreciate how carefully conditional use permissions had to be articulated until I really got a close look at how fractious and circular conditional use reviews can be when ordinances are written without clear and detailed criteria. Conditional use is important in situations where zoning rules for hundreds and sometimes for thousands of properties are affected, and invariably in those big sets of parcels, there are irregularities, especially undersized properties, where the assumptions about the appropriate lot coverage or other building standards might be close, but not exactly satisfy the zoning code. And so conditional use can provide a review to give a rational yes or no to a request based on those sort of site-specific conditions. And you know, regrettably, in other situations, conditional use is the tool of exclusionary zoning. It's the veil that stakeholders can hide behind to say, of course, I'm okay with low-volume apartments and townhouse redevelopment. Just follow these impossibly limited set of conditions or circular criteria that gets nowhere other than lawsuits and acrimony. So while I've tried to listen very openly to residents who have shared that they think conditional use allows them to negotiate with a property owner over the density or type of building at some future date, I just got to level with everybody that that's not accurate. That's not accurate. And we shouldn't settle for a perceived sense of security about the future of these locations that rests on that type of thinking. So let me just kind of step back and invite others to contrast that characterization, share their own take, any of that on conditional use in particular. David, do you mind?
Yes, I mean, some of us have actually gone through a conditional use process. And as you say, conditional use has to be focused on what the conditions are. There are no conditions set forth at this time. I'm sure we could come up with them, but at this time, there are no conditions. We all went through it with 110 Park. And contrary to a statement made earlier today, we, as you know, are 4 members of this council who sat on a conditional use hearing for 110 Park, and I know I found my hands tied by the law that said I had to do this is because the conditional use was written so narrowly that I had to grant the conditional use, even though I didn't agree with the overall intent. If we had no conditional use, we would have probably had more discretion over 110 Park. The changes to 110 Park did not, let me repeat that, did not occur because of conditional use. We passed the conditional use, and then neighbors working with each other, being collegial, being respectful, got together and said, you know, we're listening, and we hear that if we set this back a little bit, if we save this building frontage, if we did these things collegially, we can move forward. And that's where we got those wins. It wasn't through conditional use. So I think that's an important consideration. I do want, you know, I seldom have to do this, but I do want to correct you on something that you said
Lay it on me.
Earlier. You said that the building areas is 60, 65, and 75.
Let's break down, what does building area mean? Yeah,
That's,
put a better
right, it's the
terminology to that.
impermeable surfaces, the covered surfaces.
I see.
And the building area is only 35%.
The building structure.
Right.
And the paved surface.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, so when people read, if we advertise something, when people read tomorrow at home and they see lot coverage, right, we're talking about the building and we're talking about the paving.
Right.
Okay, got
And
it.
currently, 3 of these sites are approach 100% coverage. so that hopefully the the stormwater problems will be reduced.
Okay,
But
okay.
I just wanted to catch that.
Okay.
And-
And
and-
anything else conditional use? Just
No.
so we can knock that out, because that's
No.
not in the text.
Okay.
Once we walk down the text, we're
Right.
not going to have the opportunity to chew on that part.
It's related to conditional use.
Okay.
One of the things you left out in the whole process that has been going through for almost a year is what the zoning hearing board did.
Mhm.
And the property owner wanted to change this to a car display and took it to the zoning hearing board. And they said, with all sorts of conditions and limitations, et cetera, on the use, and the zoning hearing board said, that's not the same use. So it isn't a slam dunk. These variances don't get granted willy-nilly. I just wanted to add that, as it does fit into the conditional use
Okay.
process.
And let me say this about conditional use, and it is kind of what you said, but I want to make sure it's really clear. In the 110 Park, I'm one of the survivors of the 110 Park hearing process, conditional use process. Conditional use was only applicable to the demolition. We didn't have.
No leverage to make a smaller building.
We did not.
Shorter
The
building,
reason the
setback building,
The
none of that
reason the
stuff.
building is better than the original is because of negotiation that had nothing to do with conditional use. So I just want that to be clear. That's my.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so anything else conditional use, editorializing on conditional use?
Great explanation.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that, yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So traffic also, just context that's outside the text. Okay, so let's talk through the tools that are available to us to plan for the traffic impact of any changes on these 4 locations. Swarthmore Saldo, which I mentioned earlier, is a section of our zoning regulation for activities that are bigger than a single home. So Saldo is open and in play, and the requirements that are relevant to this proposal include, I'm going to focus on just 2, and maybe others have other pieces that are important to them to lift up just on background. Currently, a traffic impact study is required where development is sought above 20 residents. So Jill worked with the borough engineer to prepare language we can consider tonight to require a traffic impact study and to give council and the engineer authority to impose plan improvements to mitigate negative traffic impacts. And let's talk about that when we get down to the traffic part. But okay, so that's kind of what Saldo does for us now. So we have a decision point prepared if council would like to make that broader. And then the other big tool for us is a no-build buffer area on the street frontage of all of these properties called the right-of-way. PennDOT requires a 60-foot right-of-way along Chester Road, a 50-foot right-of-way on Yale Ave and Fairview Roads. Those distances are measured from the center line of each road as a midpoint. And so council colleagues have that diagram in front of you to just keep our conversation organized, not talk across purposes. So Swarthmore Saldo already requires a greater right-of-way than PennDOT on Chester Road, and that's an 80-foot right-of-way.
And that's known as the ultimate setback.
Kind of
We'll
like
get back
that.
to that.
So to keep things clear for all of us at the dot,
Say that again.
The ultimate setback.
right? Okay, so the 80-foot right-of-way, Cindy, I think just because you and me keep being like, are we sure about the next piece that I'm gonna say. When we're talking about the zoning setbacks here in the text, those are additional distances beyond the Saldo right-of-way. So that's this part here, on the even further interior of the property.
I'll share it with you.
Okay. So these right-of-ways and setbacks are important traffic safety features because we can confirm that no new building will encroach any closer to Chester Road. We do not foreclose the future possibility of leveraging PennDOT to have dedicated turn lanes in the future. We're not giving away any kinds of options down the line. So the right-of-way plus the setbacks are also really important to make sure that any future building doesn't impede a driver or a pedestrian's sight lines when they approach any of the intersections. So those are really key aspects of the built environment. But do any others want to speak to traffic safety from a different angle? I think those are the big chunky ones, but maybe there are other nuances.
I have an ask that is outside of the ordinance, so we can get to that later, we can talk about it now. Your call, your committee.
Please.
Okay. Regarding the intersection of Chester and Yale, which is the place, I think, that is the most dreaded and the place that has the most collisions and is the biggest problem. It's one of the biggest problems, I think, at Swarthmore traffic-wise. In consultation with Eric Johnson, our engineer, and speaking with Doug Harnsberger in great detail from the Planning Commission, I'm asking council colleagues to support a more comprehensive and effective solution for the troubling intersection at Yale and Chester. Talking with these professionals, we believe this would resolve so many of the concerns raised. So I'm moving that this borough engage PennDOT immediately to explore 4 turn lanes at the intersection of Yale and Chester Road. This comes from Eric Johnson, who works for Pinoti, who's our engineer.
Sorry, but it's not on the agenda tonight, so you can't vote on it tonight.
Okay. I mean, it's part of the,
Interested, yeah.
yeah, it's just part of the discussion, but okay, I appreciate that. Do I have to stop talking about it right now?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not clear. Are you talking about it in the context, you're talking about a project separate from what is built into this ordinance?
Not necessarily, and that's how this came up in my conversations. I understand, agendas needing to be out in advance, 24 hours. Let me just say this, and you can tell me if I can proceed. We can certainly talk about it next month. Nothing's happening between now and then anyway. But there is something, all of this is so new, the terminology, so I'm learning so much every day. So the Saldo has an 80-foot setback, but in fact, Chester Road itself has 60, because it's older.
It's pre-existing.
It pre-exists.
Right.
So there's something called the ultimate setback, which is 80, which means that a developer who wants to develop any of these properties has to come up with an additional 10 feet of right-of-way. So according to the engineer and Mr. Harnsberger, who I spoke in great detail with, this 10 feet would accommodate turn lanes, and it's in existence at Fairview already, right? So we can all envision that, and that would make the intersection so much safer, regardless of whether there's ever development on these sites. So I will stop talking if I need to stop talking. It could be part of this, it's not part of the ordinance.
So it's not for the text today, but it's context that helps the council to inform their deliberation, whether they think the traffic safety considerations that aren't in the text are satisfactory. And so as a companion, separate, independent action, Jill, maybe when Sean is in place, right, is Sean and Eric getting, perhaps they can get future direction from council to say, start raising this with PennDOT and use the circumstance of this zoning change as part of explaining to PennDOT why this is the right time to get us those resources in this community, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's as far as I'm taking for today, but I think it's useful for people to have.
Yeah,
as
so I don't
context.
think you should be having a separate vote on that. I think it's fine to kind of weave it into the discussion, but
And
as to.
I think it's important because we heard from so many people tonight about traffic, and we've known that that's a
Yeah, I mean, I
sore
think-
point for people,
I think-
especially in context of this of this ordinance.
There's also an amendment to the ordinance that I'm proposing that has to do with traffic.
Okay, just back to that for just one second.
Yeah, yeah.
On the working with Penny, I just suggest that Eric have some proposal for council's
Okay.
consideration next
Okay.
month. So that's,
I will work on that.
yeah, some cost proposal for what he's gonna,
What's he gonna do for us?
yeah.
Okay,
It was
good.
like, let's get it, something more concrete in front of
Okay.
council.
Perfect.
Okay, so a good kind of byproduct, spin-off side, additional consideration. Okay, so let's get on the text. Let's get on the page and consider the text before us. So I'll march us through, page 1 through 5. You all shout. If there are any places you want to stop and make a change or ask for clarifications, I suggested a few stopping points, but please, by all means, page 1, clean, whereas and preambles, no real change, right?
Right.
Page 2. What are we good with, any topics that we want to consider on page 2? So,
I have a minor concern under B1.
yep,
We say a minimum lot size is of 13,500 square feet. This applies to only 4 specific lots. So whatever those lot sizes are, is what it should apply to. And if it happens to measure in one of them at 13,460, I don't want it to be a big issue. So I don't know if we need that.
cool. James, do you want to speak to minimum lot size? I think the planning commission's intent was to prevent subdivision
Yeah.
of these properties. Why might we not want subdivision of these properties? And then activating these same rule sets in 2 places rather than 1, right? You get the 60, 65, 75% coverage in 2 settings, and that might really change our dimension standards. But if you want to speak to that in a different way, please do.
No, I think you captured it, Scarlett. The minimum square footage was designed to prevent subdivision, so that you couldn't, subdivide one of these lots into 2 lots, and then build 8 and 8, side by side, like on the medical center lot, for example, and have very small, units, and still have the large, if you were to subdivide, for example, one of the 20,000 square foot locations, they would each be 10,000, and you would have the 75%
Sure.
combined building and
Yep.
the ratio, which is not the intent
Right.
behind the ordinance.
So
So
Dave-
that was the purpose behind that.
And so David, if you wanted a little more cushion between the actual surveyed square footage of the smallest site, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to change this minimum footage. Are you comfortable with the subdivision rationale?
Well,
Or do you wanna do
I
something else here?
understand the subdivision rationale, and I should add, and I'm sure James would agree, that to have a subdivision, there's a pretty high bar that you have to go through in our process already. You can't just say, I want a subdivision. You have to come in, you have to show a need, you have to show a purpose. So I don't think we need it for subdivision purposes. I think our ordinances already address subdivision. I understand the belts and suspenders. I just don't know that if, a couple of these plots were surveyed, whether it would come in at 13,500 because of their irregular shapes.
Previous ordinance that council passed said 14,000, and the collision center, I believe, did not meet that. That's why it was lowered.
Right, I understand.
So
So
lower
I
it
think
even a
they're
little more.
covered. I think it's covered.
According to
leave it as
the county measurements, I know it's irregular, but the county says 15,000 for the smaller parcel.
Does it say 15,000, does it say 150?
It says 100 by 150 by irregular.
Right, so that's my purpose. It's a trapezoid, it's not a rectangle, it's or Oklahoma shape or whatever. And I just don't want anything flukish happening. And we've identified the 4 parcels. I just found it unnecessary. I respect the planning commission's concern about subdivision, but we already have strong subdivision
So-
provisions elsewhere.
So I'd like to have us use our motions interior within the document to move forward on any amendments. So would you like to move to amend this text?
I'd like to move to strike number 1.
Okay, so David moves to strike B1. Is there a second to that motion?
Hearing none, I'd like to reduce it to 13,000,
Okay,
just in case,
at 13,000, I would second that motion. Any discussion on 13,000 rather than 13,500? Okay, so can I call the question on that decision point,
Please.
please? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
A 1, a 2, a 3, opposed?
No.
1, 2, 3. Marty, you chime in on that one? Yeah, but we're 3-3.
Oh, I just, I wasn't prepared.
So, no, you're all right. So, Marty, Bob, Jill, you're comfortable with Marty getting into this one? Okay, just make sure. Right.
Can I change my vote?
Can you,
Sure.
yeah?
I'll vote in the nays.
Okay, so motion fails 4-2, so 13-5 stands. Okay, so 13-5 stands.
It is
Got
what it is.
Okay.
On number 2, I'm sorry.
So,
Moving down.
all right, Marty, got you on your toes. So, good. Okay, no problem.
Gotta wake up, huh?
Other considerations on page 2?
Well, on number 2, I'm not comfortable with the 2.5 stories. I think we lose a lot of usable space that could be used to house people. I think we have, the 35 feet is sufficient, and so I move that we either strike that first sentence altogether or state 3 stories instead of 2.5 stories.
Okay, so so we're here in B2.
Yes.
Buildings shall not exceed 2.5 stories. This is back to the wedding cake. Simplified mental image. So this, we have this description of what the half story is. In the last vote, we had lots of conversation in July in Planning Commission. Boy, did we wrestle with roof lines and roof designs.
We need a second on David's motion.
Oh, I'm just so sorry. Thank you.
Does anyone second David's motion?
Second, yeah, I would second that.
Okay.
So, clarifications on what is half story or not.
Yeah, so as I understand, this half story, and I think the mansard roof kind of allows for some interior living. I just don't know enough about, James, do you have anything you want to say to this? Do you want to come to the microphone?
Sure, I can come up
If you
to that.
If you want to.
I'm happy
And
to.
as James is coming up, council colleagues may also cross-track
Thank you for James.
B2. Okay, so B2 is on roofs, and then on page 4,
Lift the arm up. Somebody told me to.
on page 4, number 4, is also more detail about primary roof, where we're saying no flat roof. Number 4 has a lot of detail, and the headline would be no flat roof. So, just know that we have references to the roof lines and the livable area in the 3rd floor in 2 places. So James, help us understand the decision point in front of us on the half story.
So the 2.5 story, I like your wedding cake analogy earlier, Scarlett. I think the thing I would say about the half story is I would say that everybody in Swarthmore who has a single family home that's not a ranch, that is like a 3-story house, it's actually 2.5 stories. Because everyone who has a 3rd story on their house, and I've actually walked around town and tried to find a true 3-story house and I couldn't. You're always looking at an inclined roof. You have dormers. It's never a flat-sided roof that goes up to the 3rd floor, so that you have like 100%. The size of the 3rd floor is the same as the 2nd floor.
So are you saying that the mansard that you are okay with only creates a half story?
No.
Or you took that, or you're not opposed to that anymore? Okay, sorry.
Well, I think the mansard roof, I think, there were some further discussions
Okay.
About that. I think that was, I think was going to be excised.
Okay.
There would need to be a lot more clarification about the specifications for a mansard roof, because there are a lot of
ways to game it and make it like technically a mansard roof.
I was trying to find a nicer way of saying that, but yeah, that's exactly
right.
the concern.
Okay, so really the objective is, the reason that the 2.5 stories at 35 feet is included here is as a mechanic to get a roof line, whatever it is aesthetically, that meets this. The 3rd floor is smaller, and we're only allowing the 3rd floor to be smaller as a way to ensure that the building profile is one that is visually compatible with the single-family homes. So the exchange for that is loss of livable space on that third floor, right? Any of you who have a third floor at your house, right? You probably have dormer windows or knee walls, and it's a little den or something like that inside, and it's not as big as your second floor or your first floor. Okay, so same gist. So, Cindy wanted to comment on this, or comments or questions that help us make this decision point?
My comment was that this helps someone understand what we mean by compatible with the neighborhood. And I'd also like to change that other line about Swarthmore Borough, not just, because next to some of these are, especially Fairview, are 1.5 stories. So to allow to go up to 2.5 stories to 35 feet is already a little bit higher than the others. So I think it's really important to keep this refinement in. I think it helps inform whoever is considering what to do there. They know what we're looking for.
Okay.
Kristen, and just to add to the diversity of housing side as well, right? That could be a smaller unit maybe.
And this is an anecdote, but my son and his wife live on the little third floor of my house, so it's livable space.
But you are losing mathematically about 16% of the usable space in the entire house, which means that there's an increase in cost of that building or what can be presented for sale or rent, etc.
So the sales price to recoup whatever your investment was there now needs to account for a smaller
Right.
built area.
It provides less opportunity for diverse housing.
Okay, so anything else that helps us to call the questions, please.
I'm
Cindy.
not sure that that's true, David, but I don't have facts, and I'm not sure you do. I think we're already allowing a bigger mass if it's up to 8 units.
Well, we're actually not allowing so much a bigger mass.
No, of the whole,
Whereas, so residential B is a 60% lot coverage building and
but it's
paved area.
But it's a big building.
Mhm,
It's a big building on these lots, and so,
Not necessarily with the new setbacks that we're considering tonight, but it's.
Okay, so maybe there's a point just to agree to disagree, so, but are there any other pieces, or James, any other
Scarlett,
slants
I
on
would
this?
just, one thing I would just clarify, I think you just said that in B, you can have up to 60% lot coverage. I think it's actually 40% that you can have, not 60.
Well, then I don't want, thank you for saying that. I have it in my endless web browsers.
I
Sorry, I
believe in A,
misspoke.
B, and C, in all residential zoning districts presently, 40% building and impervious coverage is the.
Okay,
is
well,
the
that's
highest.
significant, and I apologize for misrepresenting that. I had that wrong.
60.
So,
That could be David, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, so anything else on half story? We can call the question. So, the decision point is B2, whether or not to strike the first sentence. All in favor of striking the sentence, buildings shall not exceed 2.5 stories, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, so Jared, you're a no, right? So 4-2, so that sentence stays. Okay, go. Anything else to change on page 2?
Just a question.
Shoot.
What exactly is driving the 8-unit maximum?
Sure. So 8 units was modeled out by the developer who was potentially making the sale with Ron, and by 2 architects on the planning commission who have no interest in the property other than the borough's interest. And each of them modeled not more than 8 on that site, which is, again, the smallest of the other site, of all the sites. So we said, okay, if 8 can be spatially possible and can be economically viable on that littlest property, fine. Then let's use that as a starting point for discussion on the other 3 as well, which are bigger and there should be more elbow room to be able to do 8.
So if in fact the proposal for the 630 Yale Avenue come back at 4 units, would we be proposing a 4-unit maximum for all 4 sites?
I see. I don't know.
I'm just wondering whether or not that is a standard by which we ought to be evaluating the appropriate number of units.
It was, I think it was a starting point, and
Well,
it was discussed,
And my question is
so.
whether is that our end point? Or, I mean, I haven't heard anybody really argue against multifamily housing on these sites. I've heard discussions regarding community input, but I'm also questioning whether or not, looking at these sites, if 8 units is not over.
You know, I think you're jogging my memory. It ended up being a discussion around cost. So it was thought that in order to pay for it, it comes out of one proposal, which I think is not even happening. I don't even know, but it originated from a proposal where a cost was at a certain place, and it was sort of a math problem. So that was,
I understand that clearly, from a developer standpoint, the more units you put on a site, the greater your return. So there's a greater, you know.
Perhaps, right? Perhaps,
Well,
or perhaps you'd like to have two like really
Well, that's
great
true.
sized twins, you know, or a triplex, something like that. But I follow, I don't dispute what you're
My
saying.
fundamental question is basically, are we stuck on an 8-unit maximum in the ordinance?
Sure. Well, I mean, if you have an alternative you'd like us to suggest?
I could suggest a 4-unit,
Okay.
but that means no more than an 8-unit. It's still an arbitrary number.
But what did the planning commission say? Can you remind us, something, James?
Sure.
Would
So when we were originally talking about coming out of zoning hearing in December, saying, what could you do instead? And advising neighbors there, well, the options are collision center or single family home or twin. There's a path for twins in residential B. So really like asking them, like, what does this pencil out to spatially and financially? The recommendation was at 8. And James, if you want to shed different light on that.
I don't have anything else to
But
add.
I think it's a fair point to say, Marty, if you're saying, well, what if the ceiling were 4, right? I think now is the time to say, we want to see that the ceiling is 4 or not. I personally think this is such an incremental and conservative posture that if we're saying, fine, we have strong evidence to believe that 8 is economically feasible and spatially feasible at the smallest site, then I'm comfortable with using 8 as the not to exceed point on the larger sites.
And I think
So
it
long
comes-
as these other substantial list of criteria are addressed.
It
So,
comes
but
out
that's
of
for
the
me.
body of work on gentle density. 8 is the suggested number for lots these size. Guys, no. Mm-mm. We're talking now, it's our turn.
Sure, so there are ranges, right? Once you get above 10 and 12 and 20, right, this is now in a best practice kind of generalized standard. You're out of the gentle density.
Right.
So,
And 3 of these properties, all but the medical center, aren't that different in size.
Mhm.
Okay, they're 1,600 versus 1,350 or whatever. So having them all at 8, I think the one that has the capacity for more, maybe the medical center, but we don't know.
Sure.
And, so I'm comfortable with
Okay.
it.
well, if anyone wants to motion for something other than 8, please speak up now. Okay, hearing no motion, let's move past that. Anything else here on page 2?
One quick clarification on the area bulk regulations on A. I just want to make sure, as we list those, which is the same list as is above in the large A.
Yep, A, 1
that-
through 6.
Right.
Above.
That this includes duplexes and twins and things of that nature that aren't specifically listed, but could be considered to be
Okay.
2-family, semi-attached,
Sure.
or 2-family.
James, do you want it in front of you, in print?
I have the electronic version. I don't think there are any changes to that from the
Yeah,
version that I
there-
So
submitted.
2-family detached dwelling is a synonym for twin, is a synonym for duplex.
I would say so. So the reason that we didn't use terms like duplex or other words like that is that those aren't defined terms in the code.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure we were being internally consistent in the code. And I think that, you know, a two-story, two-family attached is a
Defined
I think that's,
That's fine.
that's what I would
It'll
consider.
show up as a, legislative record if anybody ever asks.
Okay, okay, flip us to page 3. And so here on page 3, James and Jill have gotten quite lawyerly in the headings there at the lot area table to make sure that each of these square footage division points, 15,000 and 20,000 square foot, no one can weasel around on us about those measurements. So lot area under and equal to 15,000 square foot, lot area exceeding 15,000 square foot up to and including 20,000, and then 20,000, okay. So that's not a change in meaning, but just a painfully precise articulation of these measurements. So thank you all for that.
And are we including these?
These yellow
Properties,
highlights? No, these are for yourselves not getting confused or lost in approval here.
Yeah.
Right, so we're saying the collision center is, we're considering 75% hardscape and building coverage at that as the smallest property. The gas station and shopping center, 65% lot coverage, hardscape and building. Thank you. And then medical building, only 60%. So, that was, you know, kind of well vetted in planning commission. Questions or contrasts here?
As I said, we are a little uncertain about the size of these irregularly shaped parcels, and I'd have no objections to having the parcels put into the columns rather than
The measurements.
The measurements.
Bob, what do you think about that? If we titled these columns with the street address rather than the lot measurement, pros and
I
cons?
think you should leave the lot measurement because this will exist in the future when other non-conforming uses could conceivably occur elsewhere in the borough.
Okay. So that means that this rule set would be available to those locations as well. Okay.
But earlier in this ordinance, we say this applies to these four
Yeah.
properties.
But that's in the whereases.
Is
Not
it-
that,
is it-
Bob, you would have to advise us.
No, it's in the
Oh, no, I'm wrong.
It's in the, right under.
Change
page
name
eight.
time.
Yeah, you're right.
Right,
But I
so,
think that if we don't have precise measurements to put those, with our best guesses, to
Yeah,
put
I
those
think
properties
that-
in,
yeah, I wouldn't
it's
want to
not
put those
great.
numbers in there if they're not
We
precise.
think we know, but
and-
I would be a little,
Yeah.
well, that's why I want to take the numbers out and leave the properties in, because that's what our intent is,
but it's all kind of about the size of the property and what could be and should be on each of these. I'm fine with it the way it is,
I
but
think you get to the, either way,
I'm not making a big issue about this one.
Yeah, so then let's press down to the setback requirements. So again, these are in addition to the right-of-ways required by PennDOT and Salvo. So we have 2 sets of lot setbacks. Questions or changes or confirmations about any of these?
I would like to explain one thing that, because I went so deep on this, I'm able to explain it. And I think it's important to sort of conceptualize this. So, and I only looked at 2 properties. I looked at the Chester, the medical building, and I looked at the collision center. So this has to do with right of way. Is this
Lay it on
right?
us.
Okay.
I think that that's really helpful because the medical building, yes, okay, go ahead.
Okay. without really trying to stay out of the weeds here, but just know that this is combining a couple different things that are in law currently. So on Chester Road, the right-of-way currently, forget about the saldo, in reality is 60 feet. So if I'm standing in the middle of Chester Road and I'm facing that medical building, and this is all with the setbacks and with the right-of-way, I march 30 feet as a starting point. That gets me out of the right-of-way. Then I need to go an additional 3 feet for sidewalks. Then I have to go an additional 20 feet. That is what the ordinance is prescribing, 20 feet, and then I can start my building, right? A building?
Yep, or,
Yeah.
or your hardscape coverage, right? Because we're trying to preserve that shaded buffer as well.
Yes, yes. And on Yale, same principle, different right-of-way. It's 50 feet, the right-of-way in Yale is 50 feet. So if I'm standing in the middle of the air and I march toward the body shop, I go 25 feet to the property line. It just happens to be that that's where the property line is. I need to go an additional 3 feet for the sidewalk, and then I need to go an additional 15 feet to begin my project. So you can add all that up. That's not insignificant.
That's under the saldo, you're saying?
It's under the saldo, and it's according to the PennDOT regulations on right-of-way confirmed by Mr. Harnsberger and Eric, the engineer. So it's, hopefully we didn't zone, I'm not gonna say anything negative. I think this is good.
I think it's very appropriate. I mean, I would have gone for maybe a little bit more, but
I think
I can live with this.
I think with the footprint being reduced and the setbacks being as they are, you are by definition shrinking what's possible on these properties.
I'll just add, this was an area that was discussed at length at Planning Commission. We evaluated various iterations of setbacks before landing on these.
And cross-checked against PennDOT and against Saldo, these other places that reading any one of these reference points without the context of the others really could lead to some false decision-making. So thank everybody who really dug in on that.
But, I mean, my concern is, I don't see it saying that here. I don't see a clear statement that says that, it's, half the saldo, it's 30 feet from the side of the road, plus 3 feet.
You have to know what you're doing to
Right.
read what this actually
And it should
does.
be
Yes.
more transparent than that. And I don't even think what Jill just described is necessarily consistent. The road's only like 22 feet, Chester Road, so you only get 11 feet. So if I'm trying to get to 60,
So David, how about
it's
this?
26, it's 13, so, okay, so it's 13, you need 17, fine. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So how about an interjection here at 5 minimum setback requirements shall not be less than the following, right? And then the subsequent table. How about an interjection into that line that says, that signals to the reader, remember to check against their cell phone, right?
And any state regulations.
Or be even more specific, that these measurements start after the state right-of-way and a 3-foot
I would not get into that because I think,
The front yard is defined as starting at the edge of the road.
yeah, I would,
Starting at the edge of the right-of-way, but now Jill just added in a 3-foot sidewalk, does that get added in?
that's part of
Right,
right
right.
away. It's in the saldo.
Which side of that 60 feet? Is it on
I think-
the
Can I
state?
just-
Whichever is being redeveloped, it's a requirement of redevelopment. So for instance, on the collision center site, there is not a sidewalk, but one would be required on both street frontages, Rutgers and Everywhere else, the existing sidewalk would be maintained. So Bob, if you could advise us, do you think it's wise for us to put an interjection there at 5?
I don't, I mean, I
Or you
think the developers.
This is the day-to-day, you would know full well, or our zoning code official also would know full well to say,
Yeah,
hang on a second, here's where this
And
starts.
C1 addresses this. C1 says any development in this subsection has to comply with applicable sections of the Saldo.
And David, is that satisfactory to you? It's not as direct as you might like
You
to say.
could
look at
build
this right
that,
away.
it also has to comply with the sale of every provision of the sidewalk.
Sure, you can say it again and again and again, and, after every stipulation.
I'd rather us be clearer, but I'll
I have
move on.
sympathy for
Okay.
David's point of view on this because, but I don't know how to say.
And Cindy, where you see in C1, where Jill just referenced, which C1 and C2 are really gonna be germane once we turn the page. But here at C1, we are signaling to our reader, that this isn't the whole thing.
And the other, I'd also point out, you want to convert the existing building, either medical office or the office building, into residential, Saldo's not going to come, these setbacks are going to be grandfathered, right? So don't think that, you tear those buildings down, start over, all this is going to be in play. And the Saldo.
But if you rehab the existing
But
building.
if you reapply the existing building, you're going to have grandfathered setbacks. And I think that there's a possibility with those two buildings and not the other buildings, because gas station's not convertible.
Sure.
But
Okay.
it's conceivably.
Okay, that's helpful. So unless there is a text revision here that someone would like to motion to introduce, I'd encourage us to move on to the next point. Okay, so C1 and 2 were part of several base drafts, and all the subsequent detail, which really are design details,
This is where we have to do that.
supplements.
This is where we have to do that surrounding Swarthmore.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry, Cindy. Okay, sorry, Cindy's not ready to move on. Here we go. Cindy, what would you like? You're saying,
Cindy, turn your microphone on, please.
C2, materials requirements shall be generally compatible with those in the surrounding Swarthmore Borough neighborhood.
understood, okay. So, Cindy, you'll move, would anyone second amending C2? David, any further discussion? This points to what we were hearing earlier. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Opposed? Sorry. Do you want to hear it again?
Yes.
Sorry, too fast. Okay, here in C2, Cindy was reacting to the comment that Mr. O'Brien, I believe, who lives on the Springfield Swarthmore border, pointed out that what the built environment looks like on the Springfield side, it is visually contrasted against the Swarthmore side. So he suggested in Cindy's motioning that we're saying we want materials, roof lines, and window patterns to be compatible with the Swarthmore neighborhood. And that will come into play at Chester and Fairview. That's okay? That's okay.
It's general.
It's 2:30 in my
Okay. Okay, so Cindy motioned.
I'm a yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Jared, okay, so 7-0, to a
6-0.
6-0, thank you. Here we go, good, okay.
Right.
So 1 and 2 have been here previously.
Right. As I've shared with some of you, I have problems with 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I find them exclusionary. The only thing we're excluding the number 3, as I read it, is vinyl or plastic-based exteriors. There are lots of very nice-looking vinyl exteriors. There's some other exteriors that might fall under stucco that aren't nice. I just don't think that we need to be the aesthetic police. We have some leverage on materials, roof lines, and window patterns in the section behind, above it. So I would suggest eliminating item 3.
Okay.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
Because in David's assessment, when he reads point 2, he thinks that that sufficiently expresses what we want to see. And he's right, as a point of fact, that nowhere else do we say to this degree of specificity in any other residential area, this shopping list of what's allowed or disallowed. That does not exist anywhere else. So, please, yes, please, please.
To me, this is part of the trade-off for by right as opposed to conditional use, that we be very specific in what we mean by what is compatible with the neighborhood. So I think we need to keep this in.
Thanks for that. How about for others?
I will just say that I think, for better or worse, people are nervous about what a new big thing could look like. And this seems like maybe one of the ways that it will make people feel a little more confident and comfortable. God bless my neighbor with their vinyl siding. No one told them not to do it.
Right, and I understand that, but this is where, I'll use an ugly word, this is where redlining type of things start coming in. You put in these extra restrictions, and all of a sudden, oh, you can't do this, or you can't afford that, or this person can't afford to do this to their home, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Understand. Right.
James, what about you? Does it make you uncomfortable?
It doesn't, for a couple of reasons. First, you're correct, this is the only place in the code where it does that, but this is also the only place in the code where we are permitting by right multifamily development in residential neighborhoods. I also am not concerned about the redlining point. I think that that's a bit, I think that's taking it, David, to a very extreme endpoint. We're not talking about people who are going to be developing homes, buying this to build their own home and not being able to afford siding. We're talking about developers who are going to be paying probably upwards of 7 figures to buy these properties and demolish and redevelop them. And we have the ability to influence what is built on these sites. When council came back to the planning commission and rejected conditional use, what we were instructed was to be as specific as we could, to make sure that there was no question about what the intent was. And that was what we came back with. We wanted to be as specific as we could at Borough Council's direction with respect to as many different areas as we could. And the materials and neighborhood consistency was one of those areas. And it was something we discussed extensively. And this is where we ultimately landed after much extensive debate.
Sure. Other questions or clarifications on point 3?
Do I have a second? I guess it's okay.
I think I seconded, so we could hash it out a little bit more, but are we prepared to call the question? Okay, so all in favor of striking sub-point 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so 3
And I'll make
stays.
it easy on people. I'm going to make the same suggestion on number 4, for the same reasons. Both economic and aesthetic. We're a diverse community. I don't find mansard roofs ugly. I don't find them inappropriate. There are all sorts of things. We don't have this sort of language anyplace else in the borough in our codes, and I think it's inappropriate.
Understood. Other questions or contrasting thoughts on 4?
Same comment.
Okay, so contrasting interpretation. Okay, so.
You seconded his motion, Sarah?
No, but David, you'd like to move to strike 4?
Yes.
Okay, and I won't second that, but if there's someone else who has a second. Okay, so then that motion fails and 4 stays.
Thank you for indulging me.
Absolutely.
May I have a 2-minute break?
Of course.
Sure.
We're adjourned for 2 minutes. Okay, let's pick it up. Where we left off at.
Dave? All good? Okay, so we are here on page 3, 5. So number 5, I just want to point out, as a point of education, the text on number 5 about all the building mechanicals, trash, lights, this is all identical to what we have in our apartment district. So unless someone wants to revise this, I think that this is,
I do have a question.
a
We
good
have
error. Shoot,
James here.
shoot.
Would this apply to split
Oh, you want
AC?
Mini split.
Yeah, mini
condenser.
splits. Would this allow or disallow mini splits?
A
which
mini
is-
split still goes to an exterior condenser unit, and so this second to last sentence here, that means the mini split inside the building,
Yeah,
not
it's
regulated
fine,
here.
but, right.
I mean, when I think of, I mean, I have a mini split on my front porch, it's internal.
Right.
You know, it hangs on the wall, and then the wires run through the wall outside to the condenser unit.
Right.
So there's no, I don't, the way that all of those split units, I think, are these days, there's no like external venting, like there used to be.
Right, for these condensers that get attached to a wall somewhere, right? Or
Right.
generally off above ground level, so the snow doesn't damage them, et cetera.
That's right, that's right.
All right, so I mean, I think
That's
that would
fine.
fall, that would fall within the.
You just wanted to make sure that we
units.
weren't doing something that made it
Right.
harder to use a mini split.
Right.
No, I don't, that's certainly not the intent.
Thank you.
Okay, Cindy?
My question is, it said that all these things shall be screened from public view. Does that mean the condenser units and other mechanical equipment on the rear and side elevations also has to be
Why, yes, it does.
screened?
This was a piece
Okay, great.
that some of the
I'm glad.
Cornell Ave neighbors
Okay, no, I'm glad,
made
I'm glad
sure
for
to
that.
understand.
Just wanted to
Yep.
make sure that's what that.
And the Saldo speaks to that already.
All right.
But it's reiterated here.
And below that, there are several sections that we all should realize that are redundant to other sections of the
Yes.
code. As someone who used to draft code for a living, this makes me worry that if somewhere along the line we change one, that we make sure we catch them all, rather than it's already been referenced
That's right.
elsewhere.
It's
So-
not great to have code redundancies. I think everyone who does this professionally and in planning commission would agree. And since this is the piece that is really in the public spotlight, and many of our readers today in the public don't have that broader context, that is why some of those things were really stipulated here in a manner that folks can have as their own point of
Right,
view.
and that could be something that we put out for advertisement, and when it comes back, without changing the scope of what's covered, because it's covered elsewhere, we could remove and,
Sure.
you know.
Sure, okay, I'm gonna move us to parking, which is number 6, number 7, number 8. Any pieces on parking, the upshot is one or more parking spaces allowed, by contrasted against the previous draft where one, not less, not more than one, only one was allowed. This is at least one. So more than one off-street parking space per unit is permitted, if folks can do the geometry to allow that. Sounds good? Okay, good. So then, Jill, you wanted to speak to number 9, I think?
Yeah, just have some, this is in direct response to an inquiry by a neighbor directly adjacent to the collision center. So 9, it reads landscape buffering is required where the redevelopment abuts residential lots and streets of high traffic density.
A defined term, by the way.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then I would like to add this sentence. The buffer should be sufficient to ensure that residents of abutting properties are able to reasonably enjoy privacy within their respective residences. So it doesn't say how high, but it needs to be effective to accomplish the purpose of this section. Does that make sense to people?
So folks, follow Jill's amendment. The Saldo says at the time of planting, any vegetative buffering at the interior, so this is when you're talking about your direct abutting residential neighbor, the planting, a tree planting must be at least 6 feet. So commonly, there are these fast-growing cypress, these skinny kind of barrier plantings, but when they go in, they must be at least 6 feet. But Jill is saying something a little bit more affective
Yes.
and descriptive. Do we want to add that? Or do we want to have the 6 foot period?
I think, the rationale is the family there was saying that they have second and third floor living, and they want to make sure that there's the reasonable, that they can enjoy their privacy on all floors. We can't put a measurement in there because you just can't control those things, but I think to put in the goal of privacy.
So what would that, can I ask, what would the applicant do? What's an example of a way that a future applicant would satisfy what you're describing? Maybe you would say it for us again.
I don't have that at my house. A lot of us don't. We just live, we have 3-story going up, 2.5-story.
Sure.
That's a lot of the homes.
Yeah, and gardens or trees or not.
Yeah, I get what they're wanting.
I guess
but
because
I can see
it's,
my neighbors.
yeah, I can too, now that you say that. I guess because it's multi-family living adjacent to single-family living, the idea that a single-family home may, and vice versa, you know. I just think it should be, this is just to avoid the kind of meet the strict requirement of the code, but what's behind this section is privacy.
Right, so what are you gonna plant that's 30 feet tall that's
That's what I'm trying
going
to envision. I
to
think,
create a
like,
buffer?
I can't see it. I love what you're going for, but I
I think it's
don't
too
know how.
subjective. I don't-
Yeah.
And impractical, you know.
So what pathways, or what pathway can we follow that would allow for, because and it's true, some of these some of the buildings are going to be closer than our homes, to our neighbors.
But, well, those cypresses that somebody was just mentioning, that you can plant, and they're like 6 feet to start with, do grow up to
So you can't
15, 20,
plant-
30 feet.
They are available to be planted much taller than that.
Look at
Right,
terrible
but-
trees.
So, okay, so, would you, do people need to hear Jill's suggested addition one more time?
Well, it sounds like people can't imagine how to accomplish the codified enjoyment of privacy. So to legislate privacy is a very subjective thing. I would agree to that. James, what am I going to do here? Come on, help me out.
You're not gonna like my answer, Joe.
Didn't Bob say no?
I'm kind of with Bob on this one. I understand the concern, and I think it's a legitimate concern. Standing here right now, I don't know that I have language that I could use.
I have a suggestion.
Go.
It would be to make it further setback, more, not as close to the adjacent.
I don't think that gets at that same.
Sure, whether it's 10 feet or whether it's 15 feet, you know, you still have a second floor neighbor. Right now, folks might look out the window and they see a building, but it's probably not occupied, right? And it's certainly not occupied by somebody living on the second floor of the existing commercial properties, so that would be a difference.
I think that to an extent, it's something you can't cure for. Because, like you said, unless there's a 35-foot tall tree that can be within like a 3-foot landscape buffer, which I'm not aware of. I mean, maybe like a giant cactus.
But in time, right, in time, a tree canopy, a tree line can fill in. But probably at the time of planting, I don't hear someone coming forward with something that's immediately there. So whether it's a cypress or whether it's a deciduous tree that builds out.
Perhaps this
over
could
time.
be a research project to be supplemented later from our newly appointed tree committee member. Perhaps as part of his initiation right to the tree.
Is there, and I'm asking Bob you this question, is there any language that we can add in any way that would require best efforts by the developer?
I'm not particularly comfortable with it.
Okay, I hear you.
No, but Jill, thank you for raising it. Would you like to motion and?
No, I can read the room.
Okay. So, all right, so then, anything else on 10, 11, or or 12. I know, Jill, that you wanted to articulate a stipulation
Yes.
on traffic.
And this comes from,
And hang on, but 10, 11, 12 are clean? Okay, it seems like it. Okay.
yeah, I would like to add D. So we just finished C, D. This was drafted in connection with my work with the borough engineer. So it reads as follows, D, traffic impact study. An applicant of a residential subdivision or land development plan under 1272.2H that abuts on a borough or state highway road, state-owned roadway as defined by section 128202 of the Borough of Swarthmore Subdivision and Land Development Code, shall prepare and submit a traffic impact study to the borough, regardless, oh, I don't need regardless of the number of dwellings, just as a matter of course. The content of the study shall enable the borough to assess the likely traffic-related impacts of, and this is taken right out of the PennDOT regs, I did not write this. It just changes who's entitled to it. The purpose of the study is to identify any traffic problems likely to result from the proposed development in relation to ingress, egress, road capacities, off-site traffic flow, vehicular and pedestrian circulation. Borough Council shall review the findings and recommendations of the study, and upon recommendation from the borough engineer or other traffic consultant, may impose upon the applicant additional plan improvements deemed necessary to mitigate negative traffic impacts of the proposed development.
So, Jill, in plain English newspaper headline, this amendment would say that it would be a tool for the borough engineer and the code official and council as the decision-making body to say, based on the results of a traffic impact study, we may be coming back to you as applicant saying you need to make changes to your proposal to improve traffic flow or decrease traffic impact.
Right.
This is akin to what already exists in Saldo, but a little more teeth and a little bit more front and center.
Right,
What is the
and if
difference?
somebody was, what's that?
What is the difference? Because I was gonna
Number of
say,
units.
it's already in Salvo, right?
But it's,
No,
but not
20
here.
units.
Oh, 20.
20
Okay,
units
all right,
is
okay.
the threshold to get this.
Gotcha.
So
And it's one unit, as you're saying?
I'm saying all, well, yes, but here's the little hitch.
Okay.
If someone were to develop 2 units, say, this, reasonable people are to interpret this. So it's not going to require, it's going to be where needed. So this is mandated for all the properties, but, and it doesn't say this in here, but this is the practical application according to Eric. I keep using this, we had a very in-depth conversation, he actually wrote some of this. That if it's impractical, if it doesn't make sense because it's low volume, and from everything I've heard, residential is less impactful than commercial anyway, so we should expect a reduction. So if it doesn't make sense, it's not gonna happen, but if it's, I thought about putting in, the number of units, but that doesn't give like any kind of wiggle room for a very small development. Then you'd be spending money to do this.
So if this permission existed, in the future, the code official could, upon receiving a preliminary plan, could say, oh, this is a plan for a triplex and a clear reduction in traffic. I'm making this up to just illustrate the point very clearly. Going from the gas station to a triplex or something very low density, the code official would have the latitude to say, please don't bother with the traffic study. Obviously, there's going to be a whole lot less in and out.
And we could just make this apply to a through highway. We could say this only applies to Chester Road, this doesn't apply to Yale, if people feel more comfortable that if maybe it's too comprehensive. But as I proposed it, I'm flexible, but as it's proposed here, it's the development of these sites. So residential being less impactful, I guess the experts are saying.
I want to step back from the numbers and exactly what needs to be done, but how it gets done. I was hearing that, I want to develop this site, and I should go and Scarlett was saying, well, I go to the zoning officer and say, hey, do I need and what I was hearing from you was, no, I have to apply it, and if there's a problem, we come back to the whole borough council. And I think this all should go through the zoning officer, just like everything else, give them a little bit of discretion and allow an appeal to whether it is needed or not needed by the neighbors and/or the developer to us, just on that narrow question of whether it's needed or not needed.
I mean, and that's fine, but I want to be able to address the concerns about traffic. I also note that,
I'm not saying don't address
no,
it,
I hear you totally, and I want to note also that there is a requirement on Chester Road already. PICO requires a something certificate.
Highway occupancy permit.
So that process happens, no one has any control, it happens, and there's,
I think it accomplishes 90% of what a traffic study would, the HOP. It's a difficult process. I think people think there's, traffic studies are a magic bullet, and in my experience, they count how many additional trips there's gonna be on a very busy road, and it's gonna be minimal. I mean, these are not big properties.
right.
You're in all instances, particularly at the gas station, it's gonna be so much less traffic resulting from even a negative unit building.
So you're saying this is redundant, D that I'm proposing is redundant of these, what is it called again, something certificate?
The highway occupancy permit.
Right, okay.
Do we want to put on the list of 1 through whatever it is, 12, that you have to get your highway?
Is there a question that you need to do that?
State law.
Well, I understand, but we were putting other things in that were redundant, et cetera, so that the community would understand that we're listening and we want to make sure that they're.
I mean, there's no harm in doing that, just like it also says that you have to do the stormwater, and that's elsewhere as
Right.
well. Sure. And then I would scratch this amendment.
So how about just highway occupancy permit as required?
So that would be-
State vehicle code shall be, where required is required.
Okay.
Where the applicant shall comply with highway occupancy.
And so that's the highway, that's
Right.
the Chester Road piece, that's not the Yale piece.
Yes.
So I think a good place for that would be C sub 11, where we're saying comply with all county, state, federal
Right.
environmental laws, right? You can put in also, and approval for the highway occupancy permit. And Bill, Bob, while we have you,
Where are you on that?
that's in C 11.
Different patches.
Oh, this is, yeah.
That's the kind
They're
of
plugging it in right above here. You know,
catch-all spot for our other levels of government.
Watershed. Add that in, it could be a separate
Mhm.
Arabic numeral between 11 and 12, a new number 12. Whatever you
Yeah,
want.
that's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Is that, do we need to motion that, or?
Yeah.
Let's do that. So Jill, you're comfortable with the motion to add text stipulating compliance with a highway occupancy permit?
Yeah,
And that
where required.
becomes our hook to make sure
Yes.
we're getting the fulsome traffic review?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And so, but that applies on Chester Road, it does not apply
Correct.
on Fairview or Yale, okay?
And I second that.
Probably would on Fairview. Fairview is a state highway.
Oh, I thought Fairview was one of those.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
very good, thank you for that. Questions or additional discussion on that? Bob, do you mind just, this is a tool that I don't know much about?
Yeah.
What is it? You're saying it's rigorous, but can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, you can't put your ingress and egress too close to an intersection. So
Sure.
you're required to move as far as you can. You may have to restrict turns out that are going to be right only, no left turns.
Mhm.
Eric would be very fluid with this.
Okay, so it's the kinds of, okay, and so, if an applicant is trying to propose something that doesn't satisfy the highway occupancy permit, they're tangling with
It's not happening.
PennDOT and the engineer, and it's like over our pay grade. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. So we need to call the
Okay.
question.
So, all in favor of adding the highway occupancy permit amendment as an additional requirement, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's six to nil. Anything else that folks want to?
Can I make just one minor wording suggestion? I don't know if this is something you need to vote on or not, but just for the sake of consistency. Number 11 starts off by saying all development shall comply.
Yes.
I think for consistency, internally, it should probably say any land development pursuant to this subsection H shall comply. I don't know if that's something that you need to take a vote on. It doesn't change the meaning, I don't think. I marked it up just as a,
I think that's fine as a friendly amendment. Thank you kindly.
Kristen, I'm sorry, I marked up your
So-
copy.
It's okay, James.
Okay, so it's a clarification
Yeah,
of,
just for internal
That-
consistency.
thank you for that, James. So 11 will read, any land development pursuant to this subsection H shall comply with the borough requirements. Hibbity hip hip hip.
Got, we're gonna give it to
Okay.
Bob, so he's got it.
Thank you. Okay, so then, we're preparing to roll up the entire text into a motion to consider advertisement. So are there any other places that folks want to make text changes or get a better understanding of what they're voting on? Cindy, you all right?
Well, I'm trying to channel the people who have been concerned about the by right versus conditional and think what else would they be interested? But I guess it'll be advertised again and people have a chance to speak.
Certainly,
So we're
certainly.
trying to be responsive to.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. Okay.
And although all of my amendments fail, I think it's important that we get something out there to be advertised.
Thanks.
And we can listen to the comments that come back in.
Understood. And so all in favor of adopting ordinance 3/2025 as amended at the table tonight for advertisement of at least a 30-day period, advertisement for adoption, I'll make that motion. Sorry, I need to make that motion. And Kristen will second it? Okay.
And that,
That's a Scarlett, Kristen.
and it has to go to the two planning commissions as
Yeah,
well.
so this is a good point to just explain. So we're back to the beginning. This is draft 5, for those of us who are keeping count. And so this will go to Borough Planning Commission, to County Planning Commission. This will be advertised on the Borough website in the next day or two. So, or,
Whenever he gives us the
okay.
edits.
Who has the?
I
lot of edits.
do, yeah.
Actually, it's
So,
not
No,
that many.
there's only 2 or 3
yeah,
edits.
yeah. Okay, so, last call. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you, Scarlett, and everybody else.
Okay, so that one's down. Comp plan, woo-hoo, here we go. Here we go, keep little windows of your sails. Don't leave now, here comes the fun part. All right. Okay. We've got just one more.
Let's go, come on, let's finish up.
All right. Hang in there, everybody. Last piece from Planning and Zoning Committee for this evening is a 2-pack. It's a consideration of Resolution 11/2025, celebrating the adoption of the borough's 2025 comprehensive plan, as well as considering the adoption of that plan. There are a few superficial proposed text amendments to the plan text, but overall, the public review of the prepared report has gone really smoothly and garnered congratulations and accolades from the county, the Delco Planning Department. So, colleagues, there are 3 places where there are proposed amendments to how we describe our community. In narrative text, no change to tactics or the implementation plan at all. But just to see if folks have an appetite for it, I'll move to consider these 3 text amendments highlighted in green and red. If people need them segmented or want to take them one at a time, I'm very open to that. But if folks say, gosh, this is no big deal.
Yeah, walk us through the changes.
Sure, okay. So anyone who wants to test their eyesight can go to imagineswarthmore.com and the full plan is there. And you're looking at it on your small device. On page 3 and on page 10, there are 3 changes to how we describe the community. The first is taking out a little bit of, changing the tone of the last sentence here in the Swarthmore community letter. Striking highly educated and thoughtful. We're taking away that little congratulations. Self-congratulations that Sarah wrote in there for us. So the sentence would read, Swarthmore residents take pride in their history while actively contributing, considering how to create the best possible future. Okay, so strike that first clause, just a little more neutral tone there. And so then, moving on page 10, so assets to build upon. So that's PDF page 10, manuscript page 4. Again, moderating the author's voice in the last sentence there, assets to build upon. The sentence, replacing this sentence, a legacy of economic and cultural diversity is recognized and valued by the community, with a sentence that states Swarthmore Borough strives toward economic and cultural diversity. So making the focus of a future-facing statement. Okay. And then lastly, at the suggestion of the Delaware County Planning Department, interjecting in our distinctive neighborhoods subsection of the assets to build upon. The community loves the character of the borough's residential neighborhoods, including its historically black neighborhood, and the eclectic architecture and mature tree canopy found throughout town. And so, again, looking to give a future reader a sense for that particular neighborhood and a recognition of all neighborhoods. So, are we comfortable moving on those 3 amendments?
I would second that motion.
1 and 2. Okay, can we take them as a 3-pack? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and so then the 4th and final change is this resolution. We just have an empty placeholder that Josie provided to us in the final report. And this is just really a sincere thank you for the hearty and folks who gave a lot of time and care and thought and revising and deep listening to create the plan. So this is a thank you and our council commitment to implement the plan and to also recognize and acknowledge the voices of folks who have ideas that didn't make the final cut in the plan, but really to thank those voices and those ideas too. The most material commitment in this resolution, which would be printed behind the welcome letter, is in the actual plan report, is a commitment that at least once a year, the plan would be reviewed and progress reported out by a working group of borough council members, planning commission members, and also a member of the HRC. The Human Relations Council here in Swarthmore, part of their charge is care and stewardship of fair housing. So they asked to be at the table for that review as well. So that's what this resolution says, and mostly it just says thank you so much. So consideration, changes, do folks feel good about this?
I don't know if I have the up-to-date version. Has it been changed from, okay, so not necessarily all comments offered is part of the final, okay.
Yes.
Because what I have to sign here is different. So can I do the page, can I do the signature page if this passes and,
It's, no, I think you should get a new one.
okay, okay.
Text-based changes? Okay, so then I'll motion that we approve Resolution 11, 2025, celebrating the adoption of the comprehensive plan. If there's a second, thank you, Kristen. All in favor? Aye. The weariest eye. The weary across the finish line. Actually, very appropriate.
Can I state the obvious? I think we're so inside this that we get it, but this is not, this is not, it's a huge deal, but it's
Yeah.
not law. The next part, the heavy lifting goes to the planning commission to take the comprehensive plan and figure out how that impacts the laws on the books. So,
That's right.
Thank you in
That's
advance.
right.
Yeah.
Right side to side.
That's right, that's right. Okay, so with this resolution and with these three places for amendments, I'll move that, that council adopt the 2025 Madison Swarthmore Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
Thanks, Kristen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. That's it, and planning commission and the committee are not meeting in August. Our next meetings are Wednesday, September 17th for planning commission and Thursday, September 18th for planning and zoning committee, both at 7 p.m.
On behalf of everyone who labored so hard on the comp plan, thank you all very much.
Yeah, likewise, thanks so much. Good job.
thank you, Scarlett.
Jill,
Yes.
before you circle back, before you go on to public safety, general, we skipped approving the minutes for the general government committee.
Oh, it's not on the agenda. Not my, okay, not on my version.
I'd like to move to approve the general government committee meeting minutes from July.
Second.
Second?
Approved.
Okay, so that's 2-0.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we? Where are we? Public safety, Kristen.
Okay, so the one official item we have here is the approval of this letter of intent that we have from DCED. So we've done the first step, we have the Band-Aid that we need for ALS services, which is a very great Band-Aid, by the way. And I would like to note that the county was to, or VMSC was to remove their chase car on August 2nd, and Swarthmore Fire and Protective Service Association was ready on August 1st because the VMSC chase car was no longer there. So we started a day early. We met that deadline, so I'm so proud of everyone that's worked on that. And looking forward, looking ahead, we're looking at creating this authority. And we reached out to DCED to get some support to see what we could get, and they've offered peer support. So all the municipalities, Nether Providence, Rutledge, and Rose Valley, we all have to pass this letter of intent. It's very basic, that just says that we would like any peer support that you can provide us between now and January 1, when we hope to have this created. So I would like to motion that we pass this letter of intent.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Well,
Or discussion, sorry.
Yeah, I know it's late, but this is a big deal, and I thank you for all you've done. But can you tell the few survivors here in the room what moving forward with this regional authority would mean to the region?
Yeah, it would be a huge step. It would be the first of its kind in Delaware County. So what we would be doing is we were relying on Crozier for the advanced life services ambulances. So as everyone here knows, we've come together with the surrounding three, Nether Providence, Rutledge, and Rose Valley, to create our own ALS service. And from that, we're looking more at regionalization, and we are looking into creating a regional ambulance taxing authority. So that it would be, right now, it's my understanding that ambulance services are not a required service of government. And right, yes. So this would make it to where, I mean, when you need an ambulance, you want it to show up. So it's kind of worth that $80 that you're going to pay in taxes to make sure that that ambulance shows up when you need it there. So that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to rely on any hospital network to survive, to give us that advanced life support. So we are looking to create a authority to do that. So all the same municipalities that came together to do the Swarthmore ambulance ALS service have come together to create this authority as well.
Kristen, can I ask you a question? Can
Yeah.
fire be wrapped into this at any point?
So that was something else I was going to mention. We have what I believe is the first step of this fire study, because we're also talking to another Providence about merging fire. The ambulance is completely separate right now because Rutledge shares fire services with Morton. So we are very sensitive to not discussing fire, merging fire with them. We are going to move forward with discussing the fire merging with another Providence. I'm sorry.
And would it be part of that regional authority, or would that have to be a different regional authority?
It would have, could
Be
we say?
different.
It would be different, right, 'cause it's fire and EMS.
It would have to be different, but you've got
Yeah.
a different member municipality.
But what's exciting about this is this is a first step toward more regionalization, which will save us all the taxpayer dollars. It will eliminate a lot of duplicative government. It's exciting. And I'll let Marty speak more during his section about what happened this morning with the ribbon cutting, which was also great.
Well, and I think it's exciting because to move forward, we Swarthmore are sort of taking on the administrative role of this interim, hopefully, organization.
We are.
And this would move it off to a separate entity and get us out of this, caretaker role.
Exactly, yeah, and by creating this, which, to be clear, the peer support group that I met with the DCED they've told us that we're crazy, that we're gonna do this by January 1, but we are going to do this by January 1. We're gonna make this happen.
You can't leave council until it's done, Kate.
I'm not, we're gonna get it done, absolutely gonna. I had something else I was gonna say, and it's I'm sorry, I'm jet lagged, I completely lost it. Yeah, so, did we make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All in favor of letter of intent for DCED? Aye.
Oh, one other thing I was gonna say, the authority, so we still have a voice on that authority. Each municipality gets an appointment to the board. It's up to us and the rules that we put together about how many board members there are, but we have a voice and we have control over that ambulance service, which I think is really important.
Motion passes, and Kristen, you've done an amazing job. I want everybody to know how hard she's worked.
Thank you.
She's carried a lot of water to get this. It was unbelievable, and then, Conlon having an injury and all the stuff that's, thank you so much for doing
It's a lot of us, so. Thanks.
Oh, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Public Works, Jared?
Evening, everybody. At our past meeting, we discussed the trash and food scrap RFPs, made significant amendments, and a new draft of that. Both of those RFPs is on our desk for review as of today. So we'll be considering that at our September meeting, which will be in time for contractor or bid review and onboarding our vendors in November. We'll still have 2 months of time to do so. We also briefly discussed our green spaces improvement plan, and at our upcoming meeting, we will be discussing as well, per the comp plan, a park and recreational needs assessment as outlined in that plan. Our next meeting is scheduled for this Thursday, the 21st. At 9 a.m.
All right, thank you, Jared. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, we don't have to vote this time. Caught me off guard early. It's only the first time in 7 years I've had to break up.
Cindy saved you. She
We'll
saved you.
catch you off guard a
I
couple more
appreciate it.
times.
Yeah, just following up on what Kristen said. First of all, following up on what Jill said, I really also want to extend real appreciation to how much Kristen has done on behalf of council and this borough to get this push through. It was not an easy task. I never thought we would be able to do it. I had many conversations about, we must be crazy trying to accomplish this in the timeframe it was allotted to us. I do thank the county for providing us with the ambulance service for 90 days. At least we had coverage and it gave us enough time to get something together, which I never thought we would see. This morning, we had a ribbon cutting down at the firehouse, celebrating the start of the new ALS service. All the fire department was there, a number of the ALS, both paramedics and EMTs were present. And as I said this morning, the fact that we got this done was certainly remarkable. The collaboration in the county, it's rare when you see this kind of collaboration in the county, but the spirit in which it was done between our 4 municipalities was really, to me, even more heartwarming. There was a spirit of trust and cooperation and mutual respect. There was no egos involved. Everybody really was working toward the one goal of making sure that ambulance services and emergency services were provided to our municipalities, and it was just a really, it was a great process to go through, and I appreciate all the work that people, Conlon and Max Cooper from Nether put forward to get this done. So again, it's a great opportunity. I think they've had around 97 dispatch calls already since we started on the 1st of August. So you can see the need is without question pretty apparent. So I'm sure we will invite some of the members of the new service to one of the council meetings to be introduced, so we can kind of put faces to names. And thank you to council for supporting this. It couldn't have been done and wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the 4 municipalities getting together and pushing this through. And it took it was a risk that everybody is willing to take, and not an insignificant financial risk as well. So again, I thank you for this, and we'll move forward on the authority, because I think that's the next important step in this whole process. And I think once the authority is established, we may find more municipalities actually looking to jump on board as we demonstrate how successful this type of a service can be if we work together. So I'm not going to take any more time, since it's already after everybody's been time, so that's mine. So thank you.
Thanks, Marty. For the last time, I believe.
No, I'm going to reserve for September 2nd. I've already put myself on the agenda for public comments, and there might be jumping, so I literally put my
Are
name
you
on the agenda.
going to be here for real?
Yeah.
September 2nd?
I'm coming to the
okay.
meeting, but I got to be out of here by 7:30 because I have that football draft.
Okay. Well,
That's really trucks coming the next morning.
okay, so what do you got for tonight?
Nothing.
Okay. And Mr. Solicitor?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you all. We are adjourned, and do we really need an executive session? Thank you.
60-second huddle.
Okay.
60-second
Can we
huddle.
just do it in here? Can we just?
If we can have the room.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking it out. Thank you.
60 seconds.
Good night.